Brisbane Women's Hockey became an association in 1933. However, hockey was played in Brisbane well before that, early 1900s at least. It was run by the Queensland Women's Hockey Association, and hockey was probably kicked off in Brisbane by the Queensland University and Dr. BWHA, who was the president of Women's Club. But by the 1933, country associations were formed and intercity competitions were happening, and it was decided that Brisbane needed their own association, and that was formed in 1933, as I say, and the first president was Miss Ann Todd. Brisbane got off to a flying start because we didn't start from scratch, and we had 13 clubs and 200 players. These days we have 22 clubs and 3,000 players, but the only two remaining original clubs are the University of Queensland and St Andrews Ladies. When hockey was first played in Brisbane, it was played around various parks in the town of Victoria Park. When Brisbane was formed in 1933, they managed to get an allocation out at Marchant Park, and was played there from 1933 right up until the beginning of the war, where there was a hiatus in hockey because of people going away for service and getting behind the war effort. Hockey people got involved in a Dig for Victory campaign to supply vegetables and food to the troops. So there was very little hockey played. Sometimes there were social games out at Graceville. And we didn't come back until Marchant Park until 1945. And we stayed out there for quite a few years. And it was a difficult place to be for women because it was well out of town in those days, and there were no trams, and so they had to put council buses on, and there was a bit of a hike to the grounds. And there weren't many facilities there either for the ladies in those days. But in the 1950s, there was, I guess, a complaint about the facilities to women's sport in general, and Lady Groom got behind the push to get women decent facilities, and after the creek was straightened in 1955 and the land was reclaimed after the war, cricket or athletics went to Downey Park, and then coming up to 1959, cricket wanted to use Marchant Park more, and hockey transferred to Downey Park, and along with softball and netball. We've got 12 fields here and 3 across the creek at Racy Park, and every weekend it's still filled with players to this day. In recent years, Brisbane women's hockey's been flooded out several times with the massive floods, and had clean-ups and lost a lot of equipment like a lot of associations have done. But it's something we've always known about. When we were in our old buildings, which are over there, we got flooded many times, which is really why we tried to build this building to get up out of the floods. And it's sort of ironic that we're here because of floods, because Downey Park was created from a flood in the 50s. There was flood mitigation done to straighten the creek in 1955, and that allowed Downey Park to exist. It allowed Racy Park to exist, and also Ballymore Park to exist. The creek used to run right along there where the drain is, right around the top of the grounds around our Field 7, and down past here, past our building here. In fact, where I'm standing, was the creek bed. There used to be very, very large boats moored here for many years, and when it rains now, the rain still comes through the underground channels and floods Downey Park. When the flood mitigation was put through and the drain was put in, the area then was filled, was landfill, and it was just covered in. It was between the creek, the loop of the creek, was a very swampy area, and after the war, when the Americans went home after World War II, they dumped a lot of their old equipment, food, jeeps, all sorts of things in there, and then that was covered to make Downey Park. The result of this is that over the years it required lots and lots of landfill. It subsides. We have to keep putting more fill in to keep it good over the years and keep our fields playable. And we've had over the years some funny incidents happen. We had a player running around on the corner up there in Field 7, and the ground gave way, went right through the ground, a leg up to her hip, and when we dropped a rock in, we couldn't hear the bottom. So it's a constantly changing thing, but over the years, with the amount of fill we have, We're hoping that it's subsided enough that perhaps we can get a couple of turfs out here now. Now's not the first time we've considered artificial turf at Downey Park. We did look at it in the late 80s. At the time, the cost factor was just a little bit too much for Brisbane, as well as the problems we have with putting it where we want to put it, which is in front of our clubhouse. We did look at putting it over on field 10, but there was not where we wanted. We wanted it in front of the clubhouse, and as well as that, we weren't attracting the government subsidy at that time because Hockey Queensland were looking at a state hockey centre. And we set up a steering committee for the State Hockey Centre, and we joined with them because the government wouldn't give them the money, Hockey Queensland the money, if they didn't have the players. We had the players, and they wouldn't give Brisbane the money because Hockey Queensland didn't have a state hockey centre. So we formed a joint committee and worked with them to get a hockey field and a hockey home for hockey in Queensland. Over the years, Brisbane women's hockey have led the way in so many different areas of hockey in Queensland. In fact, in one stage we had the President, Secretary, Treasurer of Women's Hockey in Australia running Brisbane Hockey. In the 1980s, Brisbane women's hockey ran the first talent camp for juniors in Queensland. This initiative continued on an annual basis. We attracted the best coaches in the country, Olympians and national coaches to run them. And this had a great effect on our ability to play in the championships. In fact, in a very short time we were winning all the state championships and have always been the team to beat since then and tended to dominate the junior ranks. After the talent camps ran for some years, we were able to, with government money, to employ the first RCD for women in Queensland. And this led to success for our seniors. We got to the stage where at the end of the early 90s, we won every state championship from juniors, seniors to veterans. The effort put into the development of our players here in Brisbane over the years has led us to have 53 international players, and underpinning that has been the umpires we've had in Brisbane. We've had a number of very, very well-credentialed umpires. We've had 20 Australian umpires. Amongst them have been some of the top international umpires in the world. I think of Heather Scraggs, who was the first woman to be asked by FOH to umpire World Cups, and she did many over the years until her retirement. And people like Jan Hadfield, who has been an Olympic umpire, and just to name a few. We've had many international umpires come out of the Brisbane hockey.
Brisbane hockey today is made up of a vast number of players. We've got over 3,000 members ranging in age from 4 years of age right to 65 plus. Many of those continue to enjoy hockey into their more mature years as Masters has become a really major part of our competition. Our young people play under 7s and under 9s at Racy Park, and that's a very vibrant and alive competition. They've just had their skills day, which was a lot of fun. There was over 400 young people there on that day. The rest of the competition is made up of juniors, where we have about 1,200 players. They play 3 divisions on turf, and then we have another 10 divisions on grass. Our senior competition is split very much into grass and turf, with 5 divisions on grass here at Downey Park, and at turf we have another 5 divisions. So we have an opportunity for everybody to play hockey, whatever level they are and whatever interests they have in the game, whether it's really social and about their friends, or whether it's super competitive, looking for elite and developing opportunities through to Australian level. BWHA is in a very unique situation. Being the capital of Queensland, we do get a large number of players come here for study and work reasons. The other big draw card for Brisbane is the QAS is based here in Brisbane, which again means that those players that have been highly talent identified in their own region and have made state level teams at the higher age groups often will travel to Brisbane to be part of our competition. Our competition is recognised to be the strongest in Division 1 on a week-to-week basis, so those opportunities many players come here and take up. Those players do create some interesting pathways for our own players. In some ways it does block some of our own talented junior players being able to make their way into Division 1 because we do have so many outside players coming in. And BWHA has had to react to that in a number of ways, mainly with our rules, to try and spread those players coming into our competition around all our different clubs so that everyone has an equal opportunity at those players, and also allowing our Brisbane born and bred players the opportunity to develop all the way through and make it to the top level. We're very proud this year, the first time in Super League, that we had absolutely a Brisbane born and raised team, with I think only one exception out of the whole team. And that team won the tournament, and we're very proud of those girls, as they were very proud of their Brisbane heritage. Those players have made it through the toughest pathway to make it to elite level. In our under 11s, when we pick representative teams, they are competing against 200 players. The same for under 13s, under 15s, right the way through. So for our Brisbane born and bred players to actually make it into that pathway, it means they've actually outplayed many, many other players to be talent ID'd right the way through. Looking to the future for BWHA, again, our most important plan is to get some artificial turfs here at Downie Park. Downie Park has been the home of Brisbane women's hockey since 1959, and when the turfs were introduced, we saw the drain of our elite players off to the 5 various turfs within Brisbane. We desperately need turfs back here at Downie Park for many reasons, so our young players can see the best of the best playing week in, week out, so we can see our best officials here, again, being able to train and teach and encourage the new breed and the new group of people coming through, but also the fringe benefits that happen, the camaraderie, the canteen, all those things that are really important to any sport. So we're really looking to do that. This is also one of the big differences between Brisbane hockey and our country cousins. They have wonderful facilities, they've worked very hard, but they have facilities that they own and run themselves. So all the money that they pour into those facilities, they also get all the benefits. So if they hold a state championship or hold any sort of event, they get the canteen revenue. They have their volunteers working in familiar surroundings with equipment that they know and trust. Whereas in Brisbane, if we hold any events that require turf, we have to go to the State Hockey Centre or one of the other venues around the city, which makes it extremely difficult. We have to take all our resources with us, all our volunteers, and we don't get any financial benefit from that at all. It actually costs us money to run and host any event. So our big plan, and what we've been working on very strongly with the Brisbane City Council, is looking for approval to get a turf here at Downie Park. We still are fortunate to host the Southern Cross Under 11 and Boys Calder Shields, and played all on grass. It's just a wonderful event, and we would dearly love to be able to have a Masters or a 15s or an 18s event here. Again, we have the size, we have the fields to cope with it, we just need the artificial turf to go with it. Our biggest hurdle that's about to face us is the lack of facilities. We're already at capacity here at Downie Park and the 5 turfs in Brisbane. We desperately need to get some more turf facilities. We have clubs training with 4 teams to 1 turf for 1 hour a week. If we want our sport to grow and continue to attract players, then we need to have those facilities here in Brisbane. Again, we get lots of players coming from interstate that have only ever played on turf, and when we tell them our limitations, they're quite surprised, because they've come from areas where there's plenty of turf and they can train and play at any time. We have teams that train very late into the night or very early in the morning just to get an opportunity to play on our turf. So, to develop our sport even further, we need the facilities. The facilities will allow us to encourage more people to play hockey, and our game will grow here in Brisbane.